Good afternoon. We're here at the majestic Victoria Falls Resort, hosted courtesy of the Chamber of Mines. And a big shout out to our generous sponsor, Nedbank, for making this possible. We are sitting here with Mr. Siwawa. I hope I've pronounced it correctly. He's the CEO of the Botswana Chamber of Mines. I think we've got a bunch we can learn from the Botswanas. You've done very well with diamonds. We've had lots of controversies in our diamond sector. You guys have been quite consistent for decades, and you've created this wonderful revenue stream for your government that you've applied to the development of your country. So we're very happy to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. So maybe just to start off, what do you think of Vic Falls in Zimbabwe?
Look, this is the final part of Zimbabwe as a tourist area. If you, wherever you are in the world and you want to come for tourism in SADC, there's three pressure points or three interesting points. That's Victoria Falls, Etosha National Park, Kruger National Park. Those are the three that are known international. So, you got very good assets here, and of course, because we are very close to you, we got our own Chobe National Park across. It's only 70 km from here, so there's always the interaction between tourists that come here and tourists that come to Botswana. So it's really a two-way process.
Fantastic. So I think Zimbabweans have a lot to learn from Botswana, because you've done extremely well, actually getting the most value out of your natural resource endowment. I think from a Zimbabwean perspective, we have an incredibly rich natural resource endowment, but we haven't done a great job of exploiting it to its full potential. So perhaps maybe we can start from there, from your perspective as an outsider. What could we be doing differently to fully exploit our potential in the mining sector?
Yeah, you see, the minerals that we have in the whole world, they are not ours actually. They belong to future generations. We only hear about passing. So there's two ways that you can look at it. You can exploit enough to keep you going, and not necessarily go for maximum. You can go for optimum extraction, just to keep you going, and maybe you can grow your economy in that manner. Because remember, mining sector is not the only sector that drives economies. There are other sectors that can drive your economy. But for us, I think in Africa, it's probably one of the important ones. The second option is to maximize the extraction, but optimize the revenue. So instead of using all the revenue that comes to you, you use only part of, but you reserve or preserve the remainder of that revenue for future generations, so that you don't use everything that you have. So in other words, it's up to you to balance which principle you want to adopt.
And so the model in your country, where do you think you are in that balance? Are you guys at maximum expropriation? Maximum extraction, or you're extracting just enough to keep the economy well oiled and leaving a significant balance for future generations?
Yeah, you see, the issue of diamonds has always been, because our minerals, our mining economy is mainly diamond mining. That's where we play the greatest part in contributing to the economy of the country. So you play it in such a way that you know that at some points, the diamonds will be depleted, and two, maybe the way people view diamonds will be different. And we are seeing some of that right now, where people are viewing, they want to put lab-grown diamonds into the market and try to test the market to see how that is going. Yes, it has dented our natural diamonds market because we are getting less and less value. But it is our hope that as people learn more about this diamond industry, they will be able to appreciate natural diamonds as opposed to lab-grown diamonds. But the model that I'm going back to the model now that we've used was to say, let's extract not necessarily at the top level of maximum, but a little bit more. The revenue stream that comes to you as the government, use some of it, not all of it, use some of it, and the remainder you must put in what we call a sovereign fund. And we've put some of that money in a sovereign fund for a long time indeed. And I think it's bearing fruit now that we have quite a huge sovereign fund available.
So whenever I think of diamonds, what usually comes to mind is, issues around conflicts, especially in Africa, where you've heard the term or the phrase "conflict diamonds" or "blood diamonds." There's even a movie to that effect. But when you look at like Botswana, the way you have gone about the extraction of the diamonds has been very clean, no issues. What do you attribute that to? And when you look at the rest of Africa, where there seem to be some issues, what is it that they could possibly have done differently?
I think it probably takes us back to the independence of Botswana from the British, where probably, if you look at it, we're the third poorest country in the world, not only in Africa, in the world. So we looked at ourselves and said, what next? We've got this independence, what next? And fortuitously, then came the discovery of diamonds. And we said, let's look at these diamonds to generate revenue for us as a country. But you see, not only to generate the revenue, once the revenue is on the table, to be able to use that revenue to pick the whole nation out of the poverty scale, to move up. We are now what people call middle income country, and it's primarily due to mineral resources revenue, and most of that is from diamonds. Yes, I think there's two parts to the equation: is the extraction of the diamonds, and also the governance of it. How do you use that resource to develop it? So that's why when the phrase conflict diamonds came in, we were able to brush that aside, because we could prove our case that we had diamonds for development, because we could take anybody who wanted to view that and see that certainly the diamonds that we've had have been able to do. At one point, we had the largest, the fastest growing economy in the world.
All right.
That was in the mid-80s. And it was primarily because of diamonds. So we were able to demonstrate those issues and therefore move away from the label of conflict diamonds.
So diamonds, like any other resources, it's a finite resource. At some point, like you are saying, is going to deplete. And what we've seen, especially with Middle East countries, has been a transformation of the economy where they're trying to diversify away from the core, economic or GDP, major GDP contributor. When you look at your own country, given the importance of diamond in that matrix, are you experiencing that sort of transformation also, even in terms of GDP contribution from diamond? Maybe if one was to stretch their mind and say maybe 50 years down the line, maybe the resource obviously is at a much lower level, what will be the economic makeup or structure look like? Are those conversations taking place, and what kind of angle are they taking?
Yes. We we have three major mines, three major diamond mines right now, and all three are open pit mining operations. But two of them, as I speak, they are transitioning into underground mining operations.
Okay.
Now, when you go underground mining as opposed to open pits, your profitability reduces. And if your profitability reduces, it means the rentals to the government reduce. Your taxation and your royalties, they also reduce. What causes the reduction? In an underground mine, you use 1/10 of the size of vehicles to move your material. In an open pit mine, you can put 300-ton trucks to extract the ore from the bottom of the pit to the crusher. When you're in an underground mine, whether you are using a shaft system or you are using a decline system, maybe the maximum that you can have is a 40-ton truck to move up. So you can see the scale there immediately changes. So you used to have a large volume of material being delivered, but now you've reduced that. So at the end of the day, you are selling less. The revenue might stay constant, right? But your costs increase. Any underground mine comparison to open pit has got a higher cost imperative. So therefore, it squeezes your profitability. And that is where now you start seeing a lot of things happening. So we knew about these issues, that it's going to happen one day, that the revenue from the diamonds will decline. And not only decline, even decline to zero at one point. So we set up what we call economic diversification drive. And this was a government imperative to diversify the economy away from mining into something else. And I think the impact is there. A lot of people don't see it, but if you look at statistics, at the turn of the century, this 21st century, mining contributed 46% to the GDP of Botswana. In 2022, that figure was down to 15%. So, but we were not selling less. Understand that? We were not selling less.
So, which other sectors were sort of coming out?
Other sectors must have come out too. In other words, the cake must have grown bigger for that
transition to happen. Yeah, which is fantastic.
And it's not a sudden drop in the GDP. It was a constant drop. A gradual drop. So which means the other sectors were coming up. So the two major sectors that we see that came was tourism and financial services. Those are the two major ones but others also grew. We must not run away from that. Other sectors of the economy also grew. So at the end of the day, yes, we did realize that diamonds are going to get depleted, or the revenue from diamonds is going to be reduced. So you try other sectors of the economy to grow.
So one issue that sometimes come up, quite a significant of that in Zimbabwe some 10 years ago is the emotional attachment related or linked to mineral resources. So at some point we had an indigenization and economic empowerment rule or act that was saying 51% of mining businesses have to be owned by local indigenous people. So there's so many arguments that can be made for and or against. And the state, how does that one really work, and how did it come about, and are there any emotional feelings or undertones around that kind of arrangement?
Okay, I think let's tackle this. We'll tackle this thing in a holistic approach, and we go to what we call the African mining vision.
Okay.
It's a vision set by the African Union in Addis Ababa in 2008,
Okay.
which was basically saying the continent of Africa has significant mineral resources, the revenues of which are not necessarily dispersed within the African continent. They disappear somewhere else. But the African continent remains as poor as it has been, as if they don't have the resources. So they said, let's do the African mining vision, which was to say, let's utilize the resources, the revenue from the mineral resources in the African continent to improve the lives of the communities. The first thing that our country did was to negotiate with De Beers to relocate its head office or its cutting centers, aggregation center from London to Gaborone. That was done in 2009.
Okay.
That move where De Beers was able to relocate and use. What did that do? It then meant that all the buying of the diamonds was done in Gaborone. So it's and then the downstream would be you then have cutting and polishing factories in Botswana.
Okay.
So that creates employment.
Okay.
So that was the one part where you said, no, let's have this thing happening here. So you also have other services, because once the guys come in Gaborone, they look for financial services, hospitality services, and so forth. So it encourages that sort of thing. So there is that portion. Then the issue around De Beers and the government. This arrangement between De Beers Mining Company and the government of Botswana.
Diptswana, right? That's what it's called, right?
It's called Botswana. Is the envy of a lot of governments around the world.
Okay.
Because it has been so successful. It doesn't mean that there were no disagreements. It's just that it was successful.
Okay.
There was a lot of rapport between the government of Botswana and BS directors. And it's existed for over 50 years, providing the service. Now, the issue was, let's move to the next level, which was to say, we're doing a 50% share in the production. Let's move that model to the marketing part of the diamonds. And I think that's what took a long time to agree. But eventually it was agreed that, we moved that 50% shareholding from production to marketing. And it's come out very well. And that's what we've seen. So there are those issues that we're seeing with the diamond industry. And, the issue is to resolve them, how to resolve those kind of issues.
Yeah, look, I think Zimbabwe's got a lot to learn from Botswana in terms of how you've managed your diamond sector, how you've partnered with the private sector, and how you've actually deployed the capital in your sovereign wealth fund in a way that is accretive to your country. And we're delighted to have you here and learn from you. Thank you so much for doing this. I certainly thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as Ranga and I did. Cheers.